Hello and welcome back to the Invest Podcast, episode number 4. Isaac, can't believe we're already here.
Holding up the 4, ready to go. What's in store?
Mate, today we're going to be talking about longevity. A bit of a brief, a bit of a broad topic, and there's a lot that goes into that. Mate, there's so much to discuss there. I can't wait to get into it and hear your opinions and thoughts on that idea. But before we do that, as always, we're going to discuss one thing that each of us has done or learned or heard about or something during the week. So that way every week we can learn something or discuss things that could help us and help us invest in ourselves, others in our community. So Isaac, what have you done this week, man? I can't wait to hear this because I don't know. So
yeah, this is all we go off the cuff here at the Invest Podcast. And to be honest, Jack, the feedback's been great from everyone out there saying that this is one of their favorite parts of the podcast. So my thing of the week has been, I always have these observations day to day. I make these weird observations of the world. And I decided I was thinking I should journal them. But instead of a journal, I just use Twitter and I tweet them and I share it to my Instagram story. And that's how I kind of express myself. And it's my journal in my own way. So Twitter keeps it permanently. And then Instagram kind of lets me share it with people for a 24-hour period. So yeah, that's my thing of the week. And random and weird observations of the world. And it's just a bit of fun and also kind of like my own little journal, man. Well, what's your thoughts on the tweets and the journaling idea?
I love that, mate. Well, let me just say, as your one and only follower, I've been loving the Twitter. No, it's sorry to do you like that. But no, honestly, great idea. I love it. It is a bit like a journal, but you can access it whenever. It's, out there in the public. And I think it helps you build your own brand. I feel like that's something that is really important. We all have our own brands as people. Your name is a brand. And if you can leverage that in whether it's your career or whatever it may be, it's very good. And I think seeing how you're putting your tweets on your Instagram story is great because, again, it's just more of you and it's more content from you and more of your views on things. And that's what people want to know. It's your own brand. What's Isaac doing? What's he thinking? So I love seeing it personally. I think it's great. And mate, Twitter is like the best social media in my opinion. Big call. I'm not qualified to say that at all. Big call. For me, the other platforms for me are too like addictive or toxic for me personally. For others, it's great. I just love Twitter. I love the free speech of Twitter. I love the way that you can really only engage with like-minded people. I don't know. If you know, you know. But I'm very biased because I like using it. But anyway, it's good to see you on it, mate.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's got a character limit, so you have to articulate yourself in a short period of time, unless you're uploading a photo or whatever it is. But yeah, certainly I've enjoyed it and sharing it, and I think it's hit and miss. Some ideas will be somewhat comedic or interesting, and others will just be like it doesn't matter. Exactly right, hit or miss. So a good 3-point shooters shoot about 40% from the field, Jack. In
I don't know for the people listening, a ratio on Twitter is if someone replies to your tweet and gets more likes than your original tweet. So people get ratioed, and it's an absolute violation. And it's just you see it on your timeline, and someone's been done. So hopefully it doesn't happen to you, mate. I hope not. But it's really good.
Hopefully,
keep it up.
Thank you. So Jack, what's your thing of the week?
My thing of the week is I tried something new for the first time in terms of food. So I'm really into my health and nutrition, as we discussed briefly last week. And I know it is a bit cliche, but I did try some organ meats last week. And it was really good. It was excellent. I was at my local butcher and I noticed they had some beef liver there, and obviously a source from a good place, because you got to be careful with your organs where you get them from. So nice, responsible, sustainable butcher had some beef liver, which is, in my opinion, the best food on the planet. Very hard to beat. Just in general, it was incredible. Just the micronutrient profile and the minerals, just it's so bioavailable, so good for you. So anyway, obviously it's very good. I think I made that very clear. So I tried it. Just Googled how to cook liver, followed the first most viewed recipe or whatever, and it was great. Loved it. It was good. I'm definitely going to be doing it more often. Very cheap as well. So any students or anyone who's obviously who are financially conscious of what they spend their money on, great use of your money, and you don't need to spend as much on other things like vitamins, for example, or things that are more artificial that may not necessarily have the same impact that a whole natural source may be. Now, of course, I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not qualified to talk on this. Is just my own experience, and for me, it was very good. So I really enjoyed doing that, and I'm looking forward to eating more of food like that in the future.
Yeah, I think the liver is such an interesting organism. I don't know if the nutritional benefits of particularly eating animal ones, but yes, it's an organ that in humans and most species plays a role in detoxification, breaking things down, glucose production, metabolism. So yes, it would have so many properties to it. But I think it's so interesting, and what I really want to focus in on is whatever your diet choice is. What Jack said was really important. Sustainable and good food, like knowing the quality of the food. I think our food system is really distorted, and we could probably do a podcast episode on the food system itself. But having a relationship with a butcher or a grocer or someone that provides food, I think is very important. So that the ingredients are sourced well. And it is a challenge being a student. We're both we do want to advocate for people being smart with their money, but what you put into your body is so smart, and sometimes it's worth that little extra if it's sourced well, and it's going to be a better quality cut or production.
Absolutely, completely. And I was just, for those watching the video form, I was on my phone. I was listening to you, so I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was sourcing some information. So I'm not just making claims, I'm not actually backing them up. This is from healthline.com. Vitamin B12, 3,460% of your recommended daily intake. Better, but that's okay. So that's for B12. Vitamin A is about 1,000% of the intake. B2, 260%. B9, 65%. Iron, 80%. Copper, 1,600%. It's ridiculous. And I think if people incorporated more organ meats into their diet, I think people would be a lot healthier, have a lot less acute diseases and poor negative health outcomes. Massive generalization. I'm aware of that. But I don't know. I think it'd be worth trying just to see. And it's a bit of fun as well. Like, it's a bit random.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly different. So Jack, you touched briefly on longevity as a topic. And I think what
great segue.
We said, both of our topics, especially yours, I mean, nutrition is probably a foundation of longevity, but you've chosen the topic. And what did longevity kind of mean to you, and why this topic?
Yeah, great question. I just thought of it randomly. We do things, off the cuff, as you mentioned here, because we like to do things authentically and honestly and just in the moment as well. So when it comes to longevity, it's so multifaceted, but I'd say something along the lines of things that are sustainable and things that will have long-term positive outcomes. Because I think there's a lot of things we can do that can have short-term positive outcomes, but I think it's important to think long-term in a lot of facets of your life. And I mean, that kind of is a microcosm of what we're trying to do here with the Invest podcast, which is like do things all long-term, invest in yourself. And because investment, I haven't looked up the definition of investing, but I'm assuming it will include something got to do with some kind of long-term positive outcome. So anything that can kind of bring you to any, to be better in the future than you are now. And longevity, I feel like elicits some kind of idea of in the way down the track, and things that may not necessarily be enjoyable or pleasurable now, but long-term will be good. So that's my understanding as it is now. Maybe as a doctor in training, you can give me a more concise and accurate answer, but what would longevity mean to you?
I think some of my peers would laugh at that, but yes, absolutely.
Longevity.
Yeah. It's such an important thing, and it's sustained, as you said. And what comes to mind straight away is, and I always overuse this probably, is the law of multiplicity. Just doing a small bit each day, getting 1% better each day amounts to something great. So, whether that be learning a new skill, learning something that is long-term that you do consistently, will see much larger benefits than, one massive day of hours of work, right? Just doing a little bit each day will really amount, and that consistency is important. So I guess I think we should zoom in on that sustainable aspect, because we almost went, longevity has to be sustainable. So what makes something sustainable? And maybe for you, Jack, like you've got a lot of habits that you do that you've sustained. What has made things sustainable for you?
Great question. And my life every day is very similar. I'm a creature of habit. And I think, especially because of that law of multiplicity, as you said, being consistent with that. So things that are sustainable for me, I just feel they have to be compliant or in a line with your long-term goals, or maybe in a broader sense, like your purpose or passion. I think it's very hard to sustain something that is not truly aligned with what you believe in. I think anyone can do anything for a brief period of time. We're talking about the diet stuff. So you could say, a 7-day cleanse or whatever, or maybe just to kind of push out of that context, maybe something like you want to save some money this week, or you want to have spend more time with your family, or whatever your goals are, right? I think everyone can really push themselves in the short term. I feel like we can really do that. But I think when it comes to sustainability, you just can only do that for so long, unless you really want something, or it's really aligned with what you're about. I think it's very hard. So for me, that's the first thing I thought of when you mentioned sustainability to me and posed it as a question, because for me, the answer to sustainability is like purpose. Like, what is actually going to carry you through that duration of time? Because we all know that, to do things just for the outcome sometimes is not enough. Sometimes there needs to be another reason to do so. But what about you, Isaac? Like sustainability, do you think it's as I'm saying about like the purpose, or is it maybe got to do with something else? How do you think you would be able to curate a sustainable habits for you?
Yeah, I think it is about long-term goals. And but I also would say that for a lot of people, they perhaps just do something to try, and which is great to try new things. But what we've talked about previously is barriers to entry. I think if you can do something long-term, it's something that you don't need a great barrier to do consistently. So for instance, look, if you want to go to the gym, you said it, pack your workout gear in your car or something, keep it there if you're going to go after work. Doing those little things, decreasing the barriers to entry, can make those habits long-term. And I think that's really important for longevity, is to make sure that your barrier to always do that task that you want to consistently do, that will make you better, should be at a barrier that, a very low barrier to entry, if you will. But definitely thinking of your why will sustain you no matter what. But certain days you will have the why dwindle quite a lot. You'll forget about it. You'll be like, don't want to go to the gym. Can't. Then you'll be like, get in your car, your workout gear's there, maybe your pre-workouts in a cup ready-made, all those things. You're like, well, you got to go now because the barrier was very low. It's on the way home, whatever it might be. So many examples we could set, Jack. We always love, we go back to the gym because it is one of those things that you need consistent and sustained effort.
Absolutely.
I think that's key. Maybe you can talk about like one specific thing that you have done in a sustained manner, like a specific activity or something. You said your routine of your day. Maybe just narrow down to one, and what the long-term goal behind that one was, maybe.
No, for sure. And before I touch on that, I just wanted to back you up on that point with removing the barriers to entry, because we are human beings. So, the path of least resistance is a very real path that we like to tread on. So if we can reduce that resistance, we'll be more likely to do those things. So completely agree. Making it as easy as possible is a great way to get yourself towards your goals. But in terms of things that I've done that I've been able to stick with, I mean, obviously the gym is a good one for me, because I think it's such a key role in again, like with longevity, having a good resistance based training regime or activities is great for your muscles and bones and sustainability as a human being. Again, I'm not a physician, but there you go. For me, I'd say the diet is a big one. Not that I'm necessarily on a diet, but I think educating myself on foods has helped me make better decisions for a long period of time, and I've been able to stick with that. Other things like little, not rules, but frameworks I like to live by, I have been able to keep up over a long period of time. Maybe like, not having coffee beyond a certain time of day, or things along those lines, or even just spending a little bit of time organizing yourself, like looking over your schedule. I spend a lot of time looking at my schedule, or making sure that things are all organized for me. So yes, absolutely. Like being consistent with those things are super important for me. So what about you, Isaac? Like, do you have any focus or any specific goals that you act consistently towards that can help you achieve whatever you want long term?
Yeah, I think I'll go a bit out of left field. People might not know this to me, but every day for the past, 380 days, I've done Indonesian for 10 minutes. So
I did not know that.
To anyone out there.
I love how you about 380 days.
Yeah, I've kept track of it, and keeping track and recording things for some people is a method of longevity, of doing something consistently. And for me, the goal wasn't like to be fluent in Indonesian because I'm way off that, but it was really just this idea to connect to more places if I go traveling there and things like that. So that was something that I set. But I think what was really interesting is I actually paid to learn Indonesian. Like I paid for a premium app. I'm going to look at, more ways I can actually pay for doing that, because sometimes the financial investment associated with it can sustain us, because you're more likely to do something if it's like attached to something, right? If I'm tangibly paid this amount to learn this thing, I'm probably going to show up, right? Jack, you and I have both been teachers, right? People pay us and they should come to the lesson, right? So,
people pay us.
Yes.
You're not wrong. No, absolutely. It makes you accountable. And I mean, how many, just really quickly as a different example, imagine like, let's say you have access to your friend's Netflix account. How often are you going to go watch something? But if you're the one paying, best believe you are watching that show every night. So I completely agree.
That's a really good example, actually. Now I think of it.
That's why I wanted to cut you off.
Jumped online.
This is too good to not say.
Absolutely. But yeah, and I want to do a little case study as well to add on to that. LeBron James, probably one of the greatest basketball players of all time, has had like a 19-year sustained greatness. And that for me is the definition of longevity. And when asked how he's able to do it, he literally said, I believe people can find the quote, investment in himself. Like he spends like millions a year, which obviously is a luxury, in his body, because his body is the main thing, right? He's an athlete. He needs to be able to sustain his great performance by keeping injury free, keeping, explosive and things like that. And I think whatever you're doing, as you grow in that skill or grow in that task or grow towards that goal, you need to be able to top up yourself, right? Not continuing along the same line. And sometimes that requires some sort of external force, whether that's a paid teacher or a tutor or a course, an app, something that can perhaps just keep you going that little bit more, until you're maybe at that level where you can teach others, and maybe that can renew your passion for that particular thing. So yeah, Jack, like, obviously both got sort of backgrounds in tutoring and teaching and things like that. Is that a pretty good example to kind of use?
It's a great example, and I'm completely biased because I think people should get tutored, and if they want tutoring, of course not. But yeah, no, I agree. You gotta invest in yourself. I mean, geez, that's what this podcast is in essence. But it is so true. It is so true, and it could be completely anything. It could literally be, you want to be a more empathetic person, so you're going to invest your time to be around other people who are empathetic or really good with talking about their emotions or whatever. It could be anything, not just the physical stuff. Or great example with the language, using the app. I agree. I think you have to have something that's going to keep you accountable in that way. And in terms of like investing in an educator or a teacher, knowledge is power. You have to know things, and investing time is in places where you want to grow is so important, because we know that time is so valuable, and investing obviously has a monetary value. Like, you could be investing money, or maybe you're investing your time, which is even more important. And I think, where you spend your time is so critical, and that's a whole nother topic. But I think just in a nutshell, be aware of where your time is going, and it should be going to places where you think is going to help you in the long term, and that will actually help where you want to be. And again, this ties back to longevity. But just to shift it a bit from the physical side, I know we've spoken a bit about the gym and the diet and all those things, which are incredibly important, but I think it'd be nice to mention some other things as well. What about the financial side of things? Obviously, we're not financial experts or any qualified people in that field. So this is definitely not financial advice, but just from our experience, I'm sure we can shed some nice pearls of wisdom. So Isaac, mate, what do you think is some important things you can do if you want to achieve financial longevity in your life?
Yeah, I think the principles of investing, you can be, people look at the short term, how am I going, buy the dip, all of those sort of terms are thrown around. For me, my strategy has always been long term, and I think short, consistent gains is important. I think despite there's so many modalities of how you invest, it's important to, of course, have your risk spread, right? And I think that's the same with longevity. Like longevity in anything is spreading the risk, is mitigating risk. whether it's playing sport at a high level, you want to mitigate the risk of injury, right? At the gym, you want to mitigate the risk of injury as well, but also, losing gains. And that's through correct programming language. You want to, make sure you can talk to someone. You're not just learning it by yourself. You got to talk to people. So you're mitigating the risk of going backwards in your learning. So yeah, with financial investing, yeah, definitely. I think it's about, spreading the risk, diversifying different industries, portfolio, within your portfolio, having different industries and different investment types. I can only speak mainly to what I'm familiar with, just, stocks, in ASX listed company and ASX listed companies. And yeah, I've always sort of taken the approach of something that'll grow long-term. You've got the term blue chip stocks and things that provide some sort of small return over a long period. But Jack, it's interesting that we're talking about this, because I'm going to go over to you next, and you're investing, like, your portfolio is quite different to mine. I think we differ a little bit, and it's good to have different views because you're more in the new tech space.
No, absolutely. Oh, look, I have dabbled a bit in some cryptocurrencies. I wouldn't recommend buying too much of that, in the sense that you're all in, and I'm not. And I completely agree. A diversified portfolio is a good portfolio. And I think it's important to be aware of the up and coming areas and spread your investments in a safe way. So I think, yeah, you have maybe a bit of cryptocurrency, maybe some stocks, maybe some different index funds or ETFs. Maybe you have a mate who's starting a company who you can angel invest for. Or maybe, maybe you're in the housing or property market, or whatever it may be. There's so many different avenues of growing your wealth. And yeah, I mean, I think for 90% of people, it's just dollar cost average index funds. And that's it. Like, literally just do that. You outperform most people. I'd have to actually, on a separate episode, if we talk about more financial things and investing in a monetary sense, we should pull up more actual studies. And because I'm aware I'm saying things that without actually quoting a specific thing. So take what I say as a grain of salt until I actually have evidence to support it. But in my opinion, my experience, dollar cost averaging index funds is a really, really sustainable, because it's low risk. And yeah, you can do that over a very long period of time. And that way you're not getting caught up, because as soon as you get your emotions in and you try and buy and sell, and that becomes trading, not investing. When you're actually buying and selling quickly over the short term, you get involved. It's similar to gambling, because no one knows where the market's going. So you want to avoid that. In my opinion, I think gambling is one of the great evils in life. And yeah, if you can avoid that by taking the emotion out and simply dollar cost averaging the same amount over the same frequency and a long period of time, I think most people will benefit from that, especially on the emotional side. Because I don't know about you, Isaac, but I've definitely had my days where I'm like, oh, this particular thing that I bought is up or down, and I don't like that feeling.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll sort of steer us back towards longevity there. As Jack said, like, this is not financial. It's just what we see, and definitely the idea that you're, of compound interest and the idea of your growth in any sense, in financial or physical or mental, anything, growth over a sustained period is probably, longevity in a nutshell. So maybe you can summarize our chat for today, and then I'll outro, Jack.
Oh, I love your outros, mate. No, it's good. It's good. We'll keep it brief. I think, to summarize, obviously we shared our own things for this week. So you started your tweet journal. I started my eating my organs, and as we start with longevity, as we start with longevity, we're talking about how can we be sustainable? What is actually our purpose? What drives us? What kinds of things can we do? How can we mitigate risk? Where should we be investing our time? And investing our money as well, because that is an important aspect of longevity as well. But all these little minute topics we can hone in more detail in the future. But I thought longevity was a great way to open up that broad discussion of long-term thinking and trying to achieve things that you want over the course of your life, you could say. So that's my wrap up, mate. How did I do? Because I know you're normally the
awesome. I love that wrap up. It's spot on. I love this topic. I think it can take so many directions, and I thought it was very cool. We kind of went from sport and gym and languages and investing. We
everything,
cover financial stuff. Yeah, it's everything, and this is the whole key. It's really about all aspects of life that you want to invest your time and perhaps money in, or other energy in. There's different things that you have available, so it's important. But anyway, the outro is, because we love the feedback that everyone's been giving. We really enjoy this community of people that have, sort of decided to come on this journey and watch us and message us and, give us great feedback. So we appreciate it. So you can follow us at Jack Avro Instagram, Isaac Invest Instagram, and then we got the Invest Podcast Instagram. And yeah, please follow us on, you can subscribe to our YouTube or follow us on Spotify. So hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for coming along, and thank you, Jack.
Well said, Isaac. We'll see you next week, guys.